Hello, folks, and welcome. I'm Christy Nicholas, and I will be reading the first scene from my novel, Legacy of Hunger, today. Legacy of Hunger is the first book of 9 in the Druid's Brooch series. It's set in 1846 Ireland. Well, it starts in Pittsburgh and then goes to Ireland. I recently went through and did many re-edits and rewriting on this book, which was one of my first, so there was a lot to do. I'm re-releasing it with a new cover. As of this recording, it's on pre-order with a November 14th, 2020 release date. And all 9 books have been written at this point, so you don't have to worry about getting caught and somebody not finishing the series, like some authors we know, George R. R. Martin. Please remember to click like and subscribe, and let me know what you think of the scene in the comments. I will be recording the first scene of other books in this series in the coming weeks. Without further ado, Legacy of Hunger. April 1846, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Grandmamma's brooch haunted Valentia McDowell's dreams. Even as she relaxed at afternoon tea with her mother, the lace doily reminded her of the delicate, intertwining design of the brooch. The pattern reminded her of her morning's resolve. Weary of always settling for the smallest crumbs of the good things in life, she wanted to take larger portions. Valentia's corset pinched as she leaned toward the tea tray, reaching for a large cake on the upper tier. "Control yourself, Valentia, or you'll end up looking like one of those Pittsburgh steel workers." Majesta McDowell remained constantly aware of appearances. From the servants' corner, a maid sniggered. After grimacing at her mother, Valentia reached for a smaller piece, as shouts rang out. Not the normal sound of a foreman yelling at his workers, though. These carried the edge of terror. Several patrons rose to peer out the cafe's plate glass window. Though she stood tall for a woman, the backs of strangers blocked her view, except for an occasional glimpse of someone pelting down the street. A sharp crack and a muffled explosion made her jump back. Clouds of dust billowed, and Valentia fought rising dread. Suddenly, patrons jammed the door, trying to escape. Valentia and her mother pushed out of the stifling building with the others, their maids, Sarah and Maggie, hurrying after. Terrified screams and crashes came from the left, toward the Monongahela House Hotel, where they had been staying. Her mind raced as her stomach tied in knots. Trying to make sense of the chaos, she glanced between the maids and her mother. As they stared over her shoulder, she turned to face the new threat. A menacing column of black, oily smoke billowed from the riverside, a searing blanket of menace. The stench of burning wood and metal filled the air. Several church bells tolled in discord. Valentia suppressed her terror and took a shuddering breath. "Mother, this way!" She tugged on her mother's arm to break the spell Majesta seemed under, pulling her away from the smoke. Most of the surrounding buildings were built of wood. They needed to get away before the smoke and fire reached them. Majesta McDowell didn't have long legs, nor did either of their maids. Still, they made decent time, hurrying down the cobblestoned street. Faster runners jostled and shoved past the cluster of women in their flight. While fleeing from the smoke and commotion, the heel of Valentia's fashionable boot struck a cobblestone at an odd angle as they ran. A sharp pain pierced her ankle. As she tried to keep her balance, Valentia collided with a young man unloading kegs in front of a pub. She tripped over the dolly and tumbled to the ground, scraping her hands and knees. Bruised and embarrassed, she scrambled up and ran again. Belatedly, she glanced behind her to ensure her flock still followed. Where to go? Where did Father and Connor go this morning? Down to the docks? The men should be able to get to safety by jumping in the water. The women had run too far from the rivers to use that option. Valentia threaded through several carts, half full of produce, abandoned on the street. Majesta stumbled this time, her skirt getting caught on the corner of a cart. Her maid, Sarah, yanked the fabric free, ripping the expensive silk. Gasping for breath, they halted at a park many blocks away from the fire and out of breath. After shoving down her fear, Valentia climbed on a low wall, peering back down the street. The plume of smoke seemed farther away, much less threatening. Mother, how can we find Father and Connor? Do you think we should find the river? Majesta still gasped, trying to catch her breath. Valentia realized she had set a brutal pace. I don't believe we can, unless we go back to the hotel. Blast, they'll have to assume we've made it to safety. Now walking at a less frantic speed, Maggie clung to Valentia's arm as Sarah supported Majesta. They passed a post office and paused. Valentia spied the postman inside, cleaning his window as if nothing had happened. She rushed in and brought the man outside, pointing to the widening column of smoke. His eyes grew wide, and he rushed back into the shop, coming out with a silver whistle. He blew it at set intervals, like a prearranged signal. Just as he stopped, a carriage barreled down the narrow street. As it loomed closer, Valentia yanked Maggie out of its path. Sarah, however, didn't move quickly enough. A glancing blow from the carriage knocked her face down to the cobblestones. She lay still, like a rag doll. With a scream, her mother rushed to Sarah's side. Majesta tried to pull her out of the busy street by the shoulders. Valentia grabbed the maid's feet, and they moved her to the wide sidewalk. The postman knelt by them and checked her breathing while Majesta sobbed. She's breathing, mistress. I'll go fetch the doctor. You just wait here, eh? Valentia nodded, trying to clean the worst of the dirty smudges from the maid's face. Wake up, Sarah. Wake up. Majesta shook her shoulders, but Sarah's eyes remained closed. The noise of the crowd faded. Details of the carriage that hit Sarah intruded on Valentia's memory. It had been a fire carriage, painted red and gold, carrying a long, dirty hose. The vehicle must have been rushing toward the fire. When the postman returned, a well-dressed gentleman in tow, Valentia assumed him to be the doctor by his black bag. He gave Sarah a cursory examination, looked into her eyes, and smelled her breath. He glanced at Majesta with a nod. She's not too bad. When she wakes up, keep her awake and warm, with plenty of tea. I must go. Others need me. He picked up his bag and turned away. Valentia gripped his arm. Doctor, please, wait. Did you hear what happened? After pushing his spectacles up on his face, he nodded down the street. Fire at the Monongahela House Hotel. It should be under control by now. As he disappeared into the gloom, the yellow smoke reached further through the labyrinthine streets of the city. The buildings grew shrouded in a dim and sulky twilight. Thank you so much for having enjoyed this excerpt. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, share it, talk about it, make some comments, all of that good stuff. I have first scenes from my other novels for you to enjoy as well, and you can get your copy of Legacy of Hunger on my website at greendragonartist.com. It has links to all the sites, Amazon, Smashwords, Nook, all of that good stuff, at least once it's off of pre-order. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.